Right, 5 jumping jacks. That's what we need. We need to get the energy up to talk about these video games. Go. 1, 2, 3,
Not
4,
happening, Matt. Not
5.
happening.
Why not? Aren't you excited to talk about video games and not manga for once?
Of course.
Oh, well, let's get into it then. It's Tomomat Attack. I actually did jumping jacks on my seat then for you. And
Well,
you're
I
like,
saw.
"No."
Yeah. No, I'm too hot to do jumping jacks. You know, we've had very changeable weather here in the UK lately, and suddenly it's decided it's going to stay sunny and hot, especially where I record this. I'm upstairs, and yeah, this is like the hottest room in the house. So there you
I
go.
mean, not that
Too
people
hot
can
for
see
jumping.
it because, podcasts are an audio medium, but I'd say that Sonic in the background behind you looks pretty hot, Tom. I understand why you feel
Oh,
that way.
he's so hot. He's smoking. Yes.
That would be more Shadow, I think, though, right? I imagine there's probably like PSA things saying like, "Don't smoke. Sonic says smokers can't run," or something like that. I don't know. I'm just
Quite
assuming.
possibly. Yeah, don't do drugs. Yeah. I'm sure Sonic said that before. Yeah. Don't smoke. Yeah, there was a smoking thing. Oh, I don't know. Yeah. Let's talk
Yeah.
about video games, shall we?
Yeah. Have you been playing any? Because I haven't really. I've been playing one, but
Yeah.
I'll let
Yeah.
you take the floor first.
Okay, so we'll start off with something kind of current. Monkey Ball Banana Rumble.
Ooh,
Now,
Banana
I don't
Rumble.
own this game personally. It's Claire who owns the game.
Okay.
But she's away for the weekend, so she didn't take it with her. So I thought, well, I'll have a go, and it's good. It feels, I think, really, when you think about it, it's the first sort of proper sequel, which isn't a bit gimmicky in a way.
Yeah.
I think there's an emphasis on a new multiplayer modes, online multiplayer, and things to that effect. But I haven't tried that. It does still have a single player story mode, and in that part of the game does very much feel like sort of the third Monkey Ball installment, because gone are the barriers, gone are the sort of like there is a gimmick, but it's quite a good gimmick, I would say. So it's not using Wii remotes or gyro sensors. It probably does use a gyro sensor, but again, it's not sold as a gimmick. But yeah, the levels are pretty good. It takes till about World 4 for it to get challenging. So it's good for beginners,
Right.
I would
Good.
say. But yeah, as I mentioned before, there aren't barriers there, only in the first like training mode, which is pretty quick.
Yeah.
And the story is, if you're interested at all in the story, there's a new character called Palette, and she's looking for a dad, and you're going around sort of globe trotting to various world locations, collecting these artifacts. And well, basically, when you finish a world, you get an artifact. But what's also interesting is, and I can't recall this in any other Monkey Ball game, is golden bananas. So there's one golden
Okay.
banana on every stage. So that does create an extra challenge, because it's usually in a place that's, might be a bit tricky to get to.
Hmm.
And maybe it's only accessible by using the new feature, which is the spin dash. Now they haven't distanced it from Sonic at all. I think that's exactly what it's called in Sonic the Hedgehog. But basically, you charge up and then release the button, and then you fly off at great speed. And well, that's not necessary in all the levels. You can see some levels are designed around that. Sometimes it's sort of like you can use it, but you don't have to. But maybe if you use it, you can finish the stage faster, get the golden
Hmm.
banana, or something like that. So,
Okay.
so you will notice the stages where, yes, I meant to use a spin dash here. It's fairly evident. Or just give it a go. Just see what happens when you spin dash, and where the monkey ball will go, and then you can work out whether or not you want to use it. So they don't force you to use it. It's not all entirely built around the spin dash. It's very classic monkey ball. This one, I'd say.
When you
I think that's why it's so popular. Like, a lot of people have been praising this installment.
Well, I think, as you rightly said, I think it's the first Monkey Ball game that's been a quote unquote true Monkey Ball game for a while, right? I can't remember. When was the last
Yeah,
one
I
on the Wii?
suppose there's Monkey Ball on the 3DS. That was a new game, and then of course for a while, yeah, and back on it was the DS and the Wii and the 3DS and the Vita, where you got new Monkey Ball games. But there was those odd things like in what was the one on the Wii that got remade and re-released? What was that called?
I will have a look.
Banana Blitz, I think, was what it was renamed as when it was re-released. But that one had boss fights, and I remember that being a bit, that's a bit weird, and not always that fun. Sometimes it could be, but it sort of detracted a bit from the core gameplay. This one's very straight down the line. It's sort of like puzzle after puzzle, after puzzle.
Yeah. I think
Um,
Super Monkey Ball Adventure was the last one I played on the PS2. And again, once it started getting more into
oh
not just
yeah,
it
it's
being a fun
outside
obstacle
of
course.
an
Yeah.
obstacle course type thing. And I haven't really played Adventure. That's one of the ones I may have tried, but I can't really recall that grabbing me or playing very much of that. I remember that was developed by TT Games, actually. It's a bit of
It
a
was. I just saw that. I'm very
yeah.
surprised to learn that. I didn't realize.
They did
I
that,
thought
yeah,
I assumed it was Ryoga Gotoku Studio, the Yakuza folks who
yeah.
have done that. I
Who
should stop
doing
saying
them?
Yakuza now. I should probably just say like a dragon, but I can't help it. I'm a creature of habit.
It's ingrained, isn't it? Presentation's nice. The story scenes aren't too invasive. They're fairly short. They introduce a few new characters, as I say, Pallet, who is sort of like a pointy-eared monkey.
Okay.
Quite cute female character who is looking for a father who's gone missing. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So there's a plot. It's and presentation is nice. It's not like the most graphically impressive thing you've ever seen. It's exclusive to Switch as well, which is quite interesting. But it's stylized and rather nice. And the monkeys have all got new clothes, and there's customizable outfits. When you collect bananas, you get points, and you can spend them in the shop, and you can get like little outfits. You can get the Luffy straw hat. It's a straw hat with a red ribbon on it, so you can
Yeah,
sort
if
of
you know,
dress
you
your
know.
monkeys up as Luffy, and put him in a red outfit, and there you go. And
So the last Monkey Ball games all had a banana in the title, it seems like.
yeah, Banana Blitz, Banana Mania,
Splits.
Splits. What's that one? It's Blitz,
It
wasn't it?
is apparently a game on the PS Vita. Super Monkey
That's
Ball
what it was
Banana
called. Yeah, I
Splits.
have the Vita one. I remember it being having like a monkey ball in a balloon. Not a monkey ball,
Yeah.
as like a inflatable balloon. I have it over there, but yeah, that was all right actually. They've all been pretty good, but this one I think feels more classic Monkey Ball in its single player mode.
Yeah, I get
I've
you.
heard mixed things about the multiplayer stuff. Some good ones. It's a little bit. What would you say? Frame rate's not great online when you've got so many players. I think.
Yeah.
Is that right, or is it off? I don't know. Anyway, I haven't
Well, yeah,
tried the
I mean,
multiplayer basically.
I guess it just lags, right? And the frame rate dips
Yeah,
as a result of that because of
yeah,
connectivity
yeah.
issues. It's
That's
not
right.
got
Yeah, I'm just
rollback
recalling.
netcode for the Monkey
Yeah,
Ball.
that's. I don't know. It's been patched since. I had to download an update for it, so I don't know if that's improved. But I was more interested in trying out the single player, which, yeah. At first, I was like, well, this doesn't feel that different to maybe previous ones. The biggest difference being, no barriers. So it's a little bit more like that's proper Monkey Ball because you want a bit of a threat of falling off. I mean, the stages are still easy at the beginning, but
Yeah.
you don't want it too easy.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Like with the
Yeah,
spin dash, are you kind of
yeah.
locked into it once you've started that momentum? I assume you can go straight and fast, but I
Oh
assume
yes, you
you're
go in
locked
a
into
straight
it, right? That's
line.
the
Yeah,
challenge.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You go in a straight, and also introduces you got free reign on the camera as well. So you use the right stick to actually sort of look around. And you can pause it and look around the stage and
Okay.
work out your strategy. I had to do that because there was one level where it really wasn't obvious what to do, It was like circle, cir-
A big
circular platform.
circular arena.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
cut me with no edges, and there was a hole in the middle, and then there was a sort of like where that hole was, there was like a lid, and it was like slightly open, and then the exit was on the bottom of the lid. And I was like, well, how do you get on the
Oh.
bottom of the lid? And I actually had to use what's a handy mode. You can ask for a helper sort of tutorial where it actually show
Okay.
you a route and tell you where to go and how to solve the puzzle if you get stuck. It's sort of, you don't get the full sort of medal if you do it that way.
Yeah.
You get a different color badge when you finish the world if you sort of cheat, so to speak. But I
Okay.
had to do it because basically you're meant to push the disc so it
So
so
it
it sort of
flips the
falls.
thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and then you can access the exit. But yeah, it wasn't very clear that you could actually do that. So it introduces that mechanic, but it didn't really make it clear that you can do that. Because usually you think you can't interact with the environment so much.
No.
But in this one, there's like some levels have like balls like that you can push and move out of the way in certain sections. So it does introduce some new gameplay elements, which does make it feel like a proper sequel. It doesn't feel like it's sort of living in the shadow of the other Monkey Balls. Well, it is, but it's also trying to do
Something a
something a
little
bit new
bit
in the level
new. Yeah.
design.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Get
only
that.
when you get about say to World 4, and then the difficulty then starts increasing, and
I suppose they have to do that, right? Because if
yeah.
I think back to classic Monkey Ball, I think I'd had my fill by the end of playing Monkey Ball 2 because I think
Mm.
there's only so many courses you can slide a ball around, right?
Yeah.
For it to remain interesting. So I'm kind of glad that they're trying to introduce new mechanics.
And things, it's not the first time they've done it. There have been new mechanics in Monkey Ball, but this spin dash works particularly well. I think it's probably one of the better new mechanics because we've had jumping before
Yeah.
in Monkey Ball, and specifically on the Wii where you flick the wheel about. There was Monkey Ball Step and Roll where you use the balance board. And I don't think that worked very well. Uh,
No.
but the control feels very good in this. It just feels natural, and that it's very accessible as well in terms of, I say, difficulty. It just sort of ramps up as you play. So I would recommend it. Yeah, can't say anything about multiplayer modes as I say because I've not played them, but it's good and it's not incredibly pricey. You can get it for around a £30 mark, so I think that's pretty good. It's not like £50 game or whatever. It's a little bit
Do you
more
think
accessible.
you'll finish it?
So far, until I reach this is what happens in Monkey Ball. You reach a puzzle that sort of does your head in, and then you say, "Well, I'm done with that now." At least for a while before you revisit it. I've not got to a point, say, up to World 6 now, and I've kept going with it. It's not put me off. I hope you don't get a puzzle which is so frustrating you then decide to retire the game. But I've not encountered that yet.
I assume it is probably the challenge is there probably around those golden bananas, right? And like
Yeah, yeah, you can
like the
see
equivalent
great
of a challenge
replay
medal.
value. Revisit the levels, try and get the gold bananas because you get special points, special bonus if you do get the gold bananas.
Do you also unlock special costume things? Is that how I get the Luffy hat? Or
Well, that's very easy to get at the beginning. I think you can just buy that directly from the store. But perhaps more stuff comes available in the store as you play. I'm not 100% sure. It seems pretty well stocked. It's just that you need the points in order to get certain things, of course.
what if I told you that this game is only 8 worlds long and how long to beat says it only takes 4.5 hours? Are you more inclined to finish it knowing that?
I assume it gets quite difficult then. I'm on World 6, so
Yeah.
I assume that 6, 7, 8 probably get very hard.
Mario logic, man, of course.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, speaking of Mario, I thought, I've been playing a lot of Sonic lately. I'm
Yeah.
just moving on to something else now. Monkey Ball's good.
It's okay. It was a
I recommend
transition.
it.
You didn't have to
It's a,
explain. I
there's a
understand. We've
transition.
podcasted long
Playing
enough.
the
Yeah.
transition. Super Mario Brothers on the NES. I thought, I played a lot of Sonic. I completed those games, the original 16-bit Mega Drive games, over and over again. Maybe I should actually complete some 2D Mario. So I thought, well, obvious place to start is Super Mario Brothers. Ooh, I realise why I've never completed Super Mario Brothers, because it's quite frustrating. I mean, it definitely shows its age as being, quite a punishing game.
Yeah.
So I played it for a bit, but I thought, I like this. I like Mario, but I tell you the truth, I'm getting a bit frustrated with it. So I left it. I
I
will come
smell
back to it. But
I smell the revival of a very, very, very old Tomomat attack bit from back in the days of yore of the Super Mario Super Challenge. Are you going to beat all
right,
the Super Mario games?
am I?
I did. I
Did
did.
you?
I
Did we
did.
do that? Was that a thing?
I did. Yeah, I played through all the Super Mario games, at least all the 2D ones.
Oh
And
wow,
I
well
got to
done. You
64 and
completed them
thought,
all.
well,
Good.
I did, yeah. And then I thought life's too short. I'm not doing
That,
Super Mario 64. I
that
hate
was
this
my
game.
next question. Really, I was going to ask. Hey, Matt, I find original Mario games pretty hard. Have you ever
Yeah.
completed any of them? And there you go. You've
Yeah, I
answered them.
have. You know what games are hard, Tom? Lost Levels and Super Mario 2. Those
Yeah.
games are very
Well, I
difficult.
think Mario One's quite hard,
It
personally.
is 100%. Like I didn't realize until I did the Super Challenge back in the old Tom Matt Shack how hard Super Mario Brothers 1 was, because I think anytime I played it on All Stars, I think generally I skipped ahead because I could.
Hmm.
And so I don't think I'd ever gone through World 6, 7, and 8 back to the Monkey Ball
Yeah.
comparison, and saw how difficult they were. And so
Yeah.
I commend you for playing it. I think it's beatable. I think it's once you
Oh
get
yes. No,
the
I
groove and
certainly
you get
will.
used to it, it's
I
doable.
think out of all the original Mario games, I probably played 3 the most, because I found I got on with 3 the best. But then I got up to a certain level, if I recall, where it's branching paths and you have to take the right
Yeah,
order. One screen's a different path, and if you get the wrong order, then that's it.
yeah,
So I
I
think I
remember that.
replayed that section a lot, and I was like, oh, this isn't fun anymore. So then I stopped playing.
I got through 3 without any issue. Again, same as
Really?
you. I think World and 3 are probably the 2 Mario games that I've played the most, and so
Yeah.
I kind of just know that stuff. Or like I played through that section and was like, oh, this is how you do this. I remember you have to go X, Y, and Z. So for me, I think it was more muscle memory of like, oh crap, how do you do this? Okay, this is how I get through
Mm.
it. I think I had that frustration when I was a kid that you experienced, and I got through
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
2 is really hard. Lost Levels is super, super unfairly punishing at points. So much
And
so that
that's
I
the
really didn't
original
enjoy it.
Mario 2, isn't it? As it was
Yeah.
released in Japan as Mario 2.
Yep.
Was it deemed too difficult, and that's why they decided to do something different with the Western Mario 2?
I think there's a little bit of that, but also they just wanted something different, and
Different.
obviously it looked like the same game, and
That's
graphics had
right.
kind of been pushed a bit further
Yeah.
then, and that's why they did Super Mario 2, which is of course isn't actually a Mario game. It's
Oh yes,
supposed to
I've
be
heard that
Mario
one before.
USA in Japan. But yeah, you know what I mean. It's Super Mario 2 in my head, and I beat Lost
Sure.
Levels as well. So yeah,
Sure. Well done. Yeah, I will. You see, I thought, what's the next challenge? Sonic, I don't really find very difficult anymore at all. It's
no,
I really enjoy those games. I enjoy the momentum. I enjoy the graphics. Music, the whole package. And I never tire of playing Sonic games. But I thought, Mario. I should be playing Mario. I really like Wonder. I mean, I still haven't finished Wonder, but I keep returning to Wonder every now and again.
yeah.
And I think that's great. But yeah, so I'm just thinking perhaps I should, though, revisit those older games. And what I really would like to see is a compilation from Nintendo where they give you unlimited lives, because I think that's the really thing that holds me back from Mario 1, is I keep going back to the beginning all the time because I lose all my lives, you see. So,
Are you playing it on the Switch?
yeah.
You have save states.
Sure, but you can get yourself in a situation where you've only got one life, and so
Yeah, but just save at the start of the level, like
yeah.
when you get on to the next level, and then you know you have the life, and you're not going to be in like a weird jump halfway through or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Well, I should do that really. I was
Just
trying to
do
do it
that; it'll
proper.
make it easier.
Trying
Yeah,
to do
no,
it
I know,
proper,
but I
like.
mean, You're just gonna go back to the start of the world anyway. It's okay.
Yeah. I hate doing save states though. Really
Mm,
annoys me having to pause, save state, da. I mean, it's not that big a deal, is it really? But
no, it isn't. It's
if you just had
super easy.
unlimited lives, if there was like a Mario compilation, which was similar to Sonic Origins, where you had some quality of life improvements, like in Infinite Lives and things like that,
Yeah.
I think that would be a great idea. I know Nintendo have recently released this World Championship thing where you can do challenges and
Yeah.
such. So you can play maybe Mario 1 with some different rules and things. But just having the full game, with some like improvements, like I mentioned, that would be wonderful. Do like
I
All Stars again, but do All Stars properly, not just re-release the SNES game like happened on the Wii. Yeah,
Yeah, and actually put these quality of life things in there and kind of like accessibility modes and all this kind of stuff.
it's a missed opportunity, I think, for Nintendo. They'd make a mint on that.
I'm sure they
Mario
would.
Origins.
Don't give them an excuse to resell you the same game you already
I
own
know they've
17
done it for
times.
years, but you could include everything. You could include the advanced versions of the games. Have the whole package in there. What would you do it up to? You probably do it up to you do all the 2D stuff together. Include the Game Boy games, original Game Boy, Mario Land, Mario Land 2, and
Yeah. Do you know the
hmm,
most insane thing to me is, right? I remembered this. I haven't talked about it on the podcast. I was just remembering that Super Mario 3D All Stars compilation that they put out with
3D All
Mario
Stars. Yeah,
64,
yeah.
Sunshine, and Galaxy.
Hmm.
I was in El Giganten, which is a electronic retailer here in Denmark, and I saw that they'd had copies of it on the shelf after the Nintendo sell by date for like months, and it was maybe 200-300 krona, so like 30-40 quid.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they realized that it was something worth something, and so like now it's 900 krona to buy it new in a shop, and I'm like,
Oh, that's
no one
wrong.
was buying it when it was 300. What are you
It's
doing?
wrong. Yeah, no, they're going to sell them. They should just sell those copies they've got, and that's it.
Yeah,
That's
but
a
I'm
bit
looking on.
sneaky, isn't it? Can they
I'm
do
looking
that?
on. I guess so. I'm looking on Amazon and people are selling it for 130 quid. So again, I don't understand why.
Did you get it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I bought it because again, you could get it relatively cheap before it came
Yes.
out.
Well, I
But
got it. I got it pre-ordered it. Maybe I got it on release. There was something I wanted to have.
I bought it for the sake of it because of this artificial scarcity thing that Nintendo did, where they were like, "Oh, after this date, it's gone forever," and lo
Until
and
they
behold, I still
re-released
have
them on the next thing.
exactly until the Switch 2 edition of this comes out and includes Galaxy 2 and makes this one
Oh
worthless,
yeah,
but it's
it's like
fine.
what they did with All Stars by adding Mario World to it on the Super Nintendo.
Hmm.
So,
Yep.
so it'll be plus.
To be fair, I think the reason they did that was because it was a pack-in, but still,
Well, yes, true, but
no
still,
excuse.
yeah. I was thinking about the next Switch, as you do. Everyone thinks about the next Switch, don't they? What they'd like to
They
see
do.
on it. Imagine a launch that had. Well, for me, this would be a great launch if it had Wave Race, F-Zero, 1080. Oh, it'd be nice. Just games they haven't sort of paid any attention to for a while.
Do you think we're ever getting a new F-Zero?
Well, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? I've been playing a lot of Mario Kart recently, and Nintendo make good racing games. Mario Kart 8 is pretty much a perfect game. I've played it to death, and I'm actually reaching a
Yeah.
point where maybe I'm having my fill of it again because the last few days I've been playing quite a lot of it. And for some reason, I haven't played it for ages, and I was like, oh, I really want to play Mario Kart again. I think I played it multiplayer fairly recently, and then that gave me the itch. So I got all them extra tracks and such.
Yeah.
But I think I'm reaching my limit with Mario Kart again now. But anyway, it's a great game. I just played a lot of it. F-Zero, great. They know what they're
I would
doing with racing
love one.
games. They make great
Yeah,
racing games. So
they do.
make some more. What have you got against racing games, Nintendo? You're not making
I
enough of
guess
them.
there's just
You
people
haven't
who
made a
aren't
Mario Kart
passionate.
in 10 years.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, I guess there aren't people there passionate about it, but you are right. I think the people there who are passionate about it just made new Mario Kart content.
You know what I've got? I've got an idea. Mario
What?
Kart 8 is so perfect. You think it's got so many tracks now with the boost courses and everything. So, like, what do you do next? You do Super Nintendo Kart. which they've done a little bit of, haven't they? They've introduced Link and Animal Crossing characters,
Yeah.
villager, and created levels based around them. What about you broaden that out? You have all the big Nintendo characters in a racing game, like Sonic and Sega All Stars,
Yeah.
Mario and Nintendo All Stars. Because I think you've gone as far as you can with Mario. You pretty much remade every course in every Mario Kart game ever made at this
Yes,
point.
they have, but I'm not against them doing like a double dash and going, haha,
Yeah.
surprise,
Well,
here's a
that
completely
was
new
my
thing
first
that twists it.
thought. If only you could, because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, you can have two weapons at a time, but I don't think you can switch weapons unless I'm missing something.
I
But
don't think so.
no, so switching weapons was great in Double Dash, but then again, you're just doing Double Dash again, which they've already done. But I wouldn't
Yeah, but
mind Double Dash
I'm not saying double dash again, but I'm saying something like that
like Double
completely
Dash.
does
Yeah,
something new to Mario Kart.
yeah, because it was 7 that was really the eight's all based around the updates of 7, isn't it? It's the gliders and the underwater, and then I think anti gravity was the big thing, wasn't it? In 8,
Yeah.
the anti gravity bit. So that was the gimmick in that, and everything works together very well. It's very satisfying. Um, you could add double dash mechanics to that as well, or something else. It'd be interesting to see. I think there's some amazing tracks. The tracks the original game came with are fantastic, and
Yeah.
occasionally you get like good ones in that expansion course booster pack.
Yeah.
Um, but some of them are a bit are less interesting than others. But it just Mario Kart levels can be so cool. And America
They
8 had a
can.
great selection of tracks. There's actually one that I played, because I'm playing through them all. I haven't done them all yet, the booster courses. But there's a Yoshi's Island one. Wonderful. It's the best one I've come across in the booster courses. So yeah, I think perhaps you just do more exciting courses. Or you do Super Nintendo Kart, which I think is a great way to sort of rejuvenate the series. Whether that'll sell, maybe the Mario Kart name is what sells Mario Kart. Maybe you could
I
stick
think
Mario Kart on the title. Mario Kart All Stars. I don't
I
know.
think you just call it like Super Crash Brothers and then just make it Smash
Crash.
Brothers, but Mario Kart.
There you go. You got it. So yeah, it's basically Super Smash Brothers, but for Mario Kart.
Yeah, I could see that. I could do Samus Aran beams. I could throw Pokeballs at people and have a Gyarados like wash everyone off the
Yeah,
course. That would be
I just
fun.
think that would be great because it's sort of like Mario Kart, as it is, sort of holds itself back from going that way, even though it has introduced a few of those
Yeah,
Nintendo characters. Why just not go the whole hog now? I think it would
you
create a
may as
lot of
well
variety to the tracks and the characters, and you could introduce some new gameplay stuff
make
quite well.
the Smash Brothers expanded universe. Put them on wave racing things. You could have them do different things. You could have them interact with different Nintendo games then through the franchises and everything. It'd be
Wow.
fun.
Yeah, because Smash Bros is sort of like ultimate is ultimate. It's done everything, hasn't it? It's like you can't imagine Nintendo creating another Smash Brothers game
They will,
that had more.
but
That had was more featured than that. Because
yeah.
that is like they threw the kitchen everything in that game. Do that for Mario Kart now. It's been so long. Everyone's waiting. We're all waiting for something. It's got to be something really special. I think.
Do you wanna
R-
do you wanna know
Yeah.
my deep dark secret? I never bought Super Mario Kart 8 Deluxe because I felt so
No.
burned by
No,
the
me
Wii
too.
U.
No, me too.
Yeah.
I'm playing Claire's copy. I never bought it either.
Ah, okay.
I felt so like, well, why should I buy this game again? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that there are some additions to it, but I did buy the booster courses because I thought, well, that's more Mario Kart. That's stuff that wasn't in the original. Because I
Oh,
got the
that's how
kids
you
to it.
tricked yourself into paying for it because you were like, "Well, this is Mario Kart I don't have." Now I see.
Yeah, well, that there was like things I didn't have in deluxe, but they didn't feel like because I never battle mode's good, but I don't tend to play battle mode a lot. Of course, the battle mode in Deluxe is a lot better than the one in original Mario Kart 8. I went
Yeah.
back to Mario Kart 8 the other day on the Wii U actually, just to sort of see how many trophies I'd got on that one compared to how I was getting on with the Switch one.
Yeah.
Um, And it's interesting to look at it because it is a little bit slightly more rough around the edges. You can see the Switch one does look a little bit sharper. Some of the edges have been smoothed out a little bit, but it still plays the same. It's still great, and a testament
I
to the Wii U, I suppose.
I keep meaning to dig my Wii U out and
Play
play it
Mario Kart
again.
8.
Just to play it again, just do some Mario Maker or something. Just enjoy the gamepad before it inevitably
Gamepad.
dies.
Honk the horn on Mario Kart with the gamepad. You can do
See,
that with the game. Boop, boop, boop.
where's this innovation, Nintendo? Why can't I honk? Why can't
Why?
I honk?
Why? There's a podcast title. Why can't I honk?
Why can't I
I
honk?
was going to say something else about the Wii U, and no, it doesn't matter. We've moved on from Wii U. Oh, I
We
was thinking
have.
about Sorry, I'm on a total sort of like subject after subject. You're never going to get to talk about whatever you're going to talk about.
Wow, I've told you and you've already forgotten. This is how high you are on your own words and your fantasies.
Triple Z game.
Yeah, it's okay. Right, we'll talk about it then. Yeah, Tom, it's time for another HoYoverse game that I'm going to play for like a month and be really into.
HoYoverse, yeah, I couldn't remember. I've played this as well, so we can actually have a bit of a back and forth on this one.
You have played some ZZZ, aka Zenless Zone Zero? Question mark?
For PlayStation.
Yes,
Is it only
I
on
have also.
PlayStation?
At
PC?
the moment, I believe it's on Steam, PlayStation
Yeah.
5, and also mobile, obviously, as are all HoYoverse games.
Is that only PlayStation 5, not PlayStation 4?
I think so. I could be wrong. But I genuinely, that's what I believe. Let's have a look. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it's also on the PS4. No, it isn't. Platforms PS5, Android, iOS, and Microsoft Windows. I was correct. It's a new HoYoverse game from the makers of such riveting classics that I talked about to death on this podcast as Genshin Impact, and one I loved but didn't play so much called Honkai Star Rail, which is a turn-based RPG. Genshin Impact is essentially free-to-play Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's very good. If you haven't played it, I think the time has probably passed to get into it because it's many years old now and there's probably lots of stuff you'd need to buy and do in the game. But this is the thing. With a gacha, for me, you got to get in at the start and then you see if it hooks you because there are free pulls, there are codes, there's all this other stuff that kind of makes the experience a little less aggressive / exploitative, which is hard to say, but it is a gacha game. Essentially, at the end of the day, a lot of it is gambling. But I do think what is there is essentially this time, rather than a big open world game or an RPG, they've made an
action game.
An action game. I like the combat a hell of a lot in it.
I also like the combat, Matt. It's everything else I don't like.
What do you mean? Break that down for me.
Well, I don't like all them TV screens in the game.
You don't like the aesthetics? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I don't like after doing a cool action sequence and I'm stuck on a screen where I'm moving from one block to the other block and nothing's really happening. Okay. I don't understand what all that is and I just want to fight again. That's what I didn't like.
I get you. So that's like puzzle mechanics, right? So how
I like puzzle games, but I didn't really understand what that was.
It's essentially it's a shorthand version of you transporting around the hollow, right?
So I suppose I got that. I got you moving from place to place, and it was sort of like in between the fights. This was you moving to the next area and stuff, but it was done as such a sort of. I like the presentation of the game, but I just thought that was a bit dull.
I thought the same at the start. I was like, okay, this is a bit repetitive that you need to do this. I will say as it goes on, it becomes more puzzle elements to it. You start getting like sonic springs that bounce you around. You start getting areas where it's dark and you need to do a Luigi's Mansion style flashlight thing to get ghosts.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Move on.
I just want to fight.
I like it. I'm fine with it. It's only in the story.
I have a problem with that in games. I think I like a game to sort of just show me like one thing and do that one thing really well. And if I want to play a puzzle game, I'll play a puzzle game. If I want to play an action game, I play an action game. I don't always like it when things are actually, hang on, I like Monkey Ball and their puzzles and action.
I was gonna say, yeah.
But that's
Could be
integrated
talk.
very well. I think it's the integration here. It feels like a different thing. Am I just bashing on this? I don't mean to be. Because
No,
the
I
combat's
mean,
very fun.
I
Yeah.
think there's plenty of things to bash on. I think you have to remember that this is a mobile game, right? And I think
Oh,
this is
sorry,
quite
I
easy
forget.
to do when you're just brushing your fingers across a thing. I think they've thought about, hey, is it going to be fun to do this big 3D world traversal all the time on a mobile game? Because
No,
it,
probably
it
not. This is
isn't.
no. No, I get it.
And
I get when you talk about as a console game though, that felt a bit limited.
yeah, I feel you. And
Yeah.
Honkai Star Rail, I think I can't remember what the game's called. I just
Honked.
call
We're
it
honking
Star Rail.
again.
Honkai. It is Honkai Star Rail. Good. Um, in Honkai Star Rail, there's a lot of running around corridors that are empty, and it's very
Mm,
frustrating. And I think maybe this is them trying to alleviate some of the things that people
okay.
didn't like
In
about
a
Star Rail.
stylistic way, because it's
Yeah,
presented stylistically. Yes.
yeah. Honestly, I felt the same as you, and when I got further into the game, I enjoyed it. I also
Okay.
think the combat is so good that I don't really mind it. There are bits where I'm like, okay, this section's going on a bit too long when you're running around the TVs, but generally speaking, I think the combat is so satisfying that I enjoy bouncing between them.
Satisfying. That's a great word to describe the combat. It is satisfying.
It is. It's very Moorish. It is a perfect mobile game because I think once you've played it for about an hour or so, you kind of are like, right, I'm done with this now. I'm going to put this down. I think it's great in like bite-sized
That's right. Yeah, I
blasts
couldn't
of
imagine
combat.
playing it for a long time. I think I did half an hour and that was it.
I've played a lot of it. I think I've played like 20 something hours in total. I've been doing dailies and doing all this other
All right.
stuff.
Yeah,
It's a
there is
gacha game.
that side of it. I
Oh,
didn't get caught by that element of the game. I'm probably good that I didn't because there's every chance I could have done.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't need another thing like that.
I don't have a thing like this at the moment. I've kind of completely fallen off of Fortnite and I don't really play a lot of video games these days.
Yeah,
And so
Fortnite. I play
for
Fortnite
me,
once a week, and that's it.
yeah, well,
I
you
don't
you
tend
have
to.
your routine, right, on a
Yeah,
Thursday, and that makes sense. For me, I'm
yeah,
just like, oh, well, just want to play something quick as a break between reading manga and doing all of this other stuff I've been doing recently. And so
yeah.
for me, this is
Pick
a
up and
perfect, like,
play.
hey, I can just pick
It's
up and
like
play it.
it's like when I play Buster Move,
Exactly.
which I've been
It's
doing a
like when
lot
you play
lately.
Buster Move.
Yeah,
Um, it's it's great. I like the character design. So Genshin's kind of got a fantasy setting. Star Rail aesthetically appeals to me the most because it's like sci-fi fantasy, which is my bag. But I fell off Star Rail because I wanted to wait for it to come out on console, and then when it did, the account integration stuff wasn't very good, and so I got frustrated with it. Um, this is more of a it's kind of a little bit cyberpunky, but it's more, for lack of a better term, like urban. It's more like streetwear and like people wearing cool clothes and
Splatoon.
fashion and all of this other stuff. Kind of Splatoony, yeah. It's definitely
Yeah,
riffing on those same vibes, just less like splatter and
yeah, yeah,
graffiti
sure, sure.
elements.
Yeah,
It's cool. I like it a lot. My squad is a shark maid lady that is no longer in the game, and everyone I know didn't manage to pull her, so I'm kind of glad that I did. I got Grace, who is a lady who
when you
fires
say
a nail
puller,
gun. Yeah, no, I know. And
you have
then I
to
have
explain that. Is that like
I
is that
will.
cards?
Yeah, right. Let me finish my squad,
Sorry,
and I'll
sorry, sorry.
explain it. I
Yeah.
got a big man. I got a big bear called Ben, and he's defensive and he's nice. Yeah, so this is a gacha game. So rather than unlocking characters, though you do unlock some, Ben, I think, is a free character once you reach a certain part of the story. You start off with a character called Billy, who is equal parts Vash the Stampede and Deadpool. You get one called Anya, who's like a very stern soldier lady, and then there's another one I think whose name is Grace. I didn't play with her for long, who's kind of a wheeling dealing lady who's always getting up to no good because she's obsessed with money. They're nice characters, but like I quickly moved on from them. How you get new characters, such as Ellen, the shark lady, is you have to pull like a gachapon machine, like there's a random element to this where you get currency in the game to unlock new characters or attempt to unlock new characters, and every time you do that, there's a chance that you may pull one of these characters, and that's essentially the core of this game. Is you're playing along, you're earning currency to then gamble to get these characters.
Hmm.
It is very egregious in HoYoverse games. It isn't something that I think if you have potentially issues with self-restraint and gambling, maybe you shouldn't play a gacha game, because that's kind of what it is. I have
So you sorry, you
uh,
spend money to buy like a random gacha.
a
You
chance of unlocking a character, yeah. And obviously
oh,
you can do this with
it's like
in-game
Pokemon
characters.
cards. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, kind of. It is that kind of same thing, but obviously with a Pokemon card, you have something that's eventually worth money. With a gacha game, you get an a
Because you can't
character that is
trade it
attached to the
once you
game.
have it.
No, you can't. And the worst thing is, even if you get doubles, they go into the character and unlock more special moves and stuff. So actually, you need more of the same character, and the chances of getting them are pretty low. It
Hmm.
is a knock against the game. Obviously, this is the business model that unfortunately these games subscribe to. But I haven't really felt the need to throw a load of money at it. And if it got to that point, I wouldn't. I bought there was like an introductory thing for like 40 kroner or whatever it was to get some free pulls and some free things. And I did that because I was like, well, I've played this game for like 20 hours. Why not? But you could obviously quite easily start dropping money for premium currency that unlocks this currency to do that. And
Mm.
I've so far stayed away from it. There's a battle pass in the game as well. And so far, I haven't bought that either, because even though I've got quite far on the free version of the battle pass, it doesn't really seem worth it to pay
Yeah,
the
I always feel
£10 to
like
get
that about
that.
Fortnite.
Well, no, in Fortnite, right? You at least know, or by the time I get to the end of this battle pass, I'm going to get these skins and I'm going to get this thing that I really
Depends if you
want.
want the skins, though. That's the thing. I
Hmm.
suppose I often, just like you've been seeing the battle passes, and go, I can do without all this. There's never, but it's a personal thing, isn't it? I suppose because
Yeah.
I'm not bothered about Magneto at the moment in
Yeah, this is the thing. When it's all IP
Fortnite.
stuff, I'm not that bothered. It's usually like when they had the weird Fortnite anime characters that I really liked it. And
Hmm. It
I thought
depends if
some
you
of their.
like it. Yeah, if you really like a character. I mean, I guess recently the power armor was quite enticing, but not enough for me to get the battle
I
pass.
almost bought it for Snake, but I'd already fallen off
The
Fortnite by
snake,
then, so I
yeah.
forgot it was on. Yeah. Oh well, it is what it is.
Sorry, I've
Anyway,
been up
I
to
mean,
multiple ones.
overall, the TCC I think is good. I would say give it a try. It's free. It's not going to hurt anyone. Um, stay off the subreddits. There's some people who are really into this game in
Oh,
interesting ways, shall we say, and it's kind of pervading the narrative. But of course, it is a game where there's pretty lady characters
I
in it,
assume
but it
that's
is
the
what it
same
is.
for other games developers. So you get a fandom who get
I
very
think it's
into
some.
the characters, perhaps.
I think it's something that's kind of been built in gacha games, and I think that's
Mm.
part of what drives the desirability of these characters. Is that there's a slight horny edge to it, but you can play that game without really engaging in that stuff. It's not egregious and in your face, so
No, no, it didn't appear like that to me. You know, they're cool characters. So character design was good, if not a little bit generic for my liking. You know, the
yeah,
floppy-haired
I agree with you
anime
there.
girls and guys. It's like, yeah, and there is a
Ah,
character
it
who
is what
is,
it
as
is.
you said, reminiscent of Deadpool, and I'm not the biggest fan of Deadpool myself, so that character didn't particularly appeal to me. But you know, they were nicely designed. You know, costumes and everything. It's just, you know, the anime style of them was a little bit generic for my liking.
Yeah, I get you. Like, I think that's again why I like Star Rail a bit more. Is I think there's a lot more going on, and there's a lot more ability to do like crazy sci-fi space opera dresses and
Okay,
stuff, as
yeah, yeah.
well
Well,
as
you mentioned the
cool
bear
armor.
and then the shark
Yeah.
girl. That does sound a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, it is. And obviously, like I that's the stuff I kind of gravitate towards in these, because there was one point where I had Grace, I had Ellen the Shark Lady, and I had the new police officer that everyone is raving about, in a trial version of her for one of the missions. And I was looking and I was like, "Oh, these characters kind of all look the same. Like different proportions, different builds, but like they've all got the same haircut, they've all got the same eyes.
Yeah.
It's pretty generic, but I still think the character design is cool. I kind of like this grungy city aesthetic that everyone's got going on. And again, I've got a bear in a giant tracksuit, and that's really cool because he's got a massive cannon. So swings
And
around
yeah,
about.
the combat is really good and it's very satisfying. It's very quite easy to pick up. It's well designed in terms of how it all works. It doesn't feel too complex, really. At
No,
least
and
not
if
what
you
I played, which was obviously the very beginning.
no, but I think it carries on like that, right? So you've got squares and attack. You've got occasionally you build up like a meter to use triangle as a heavy attack. And
Hmm.
then you have the ability to either press X twice to dash, or you can click R1 to do like a kind of bullet time counter attack. The enemies will
Mm.
like blink a red or a gold cross, depending on if you can
Yeah.
avoid it or not. And then you can just dash into that and it adds to combos and stuff. I think it's very fluid. It is a combat
Mm.
system I really enjoy and I got very good at fast, but I think that's kind of the point. I don't think they're looking for people who want to S rank extremely hard dead or alive stuff. I think they're looking for a more casual audience. And
Can you
obviously if you
also
feel like
play
you're well,
with different difficulty levels? I think I was probably
yeah,
playing
you can.
the accessible one. Maybe
I
that's
don't I don't think until you get to level 20, because there's like lots of internal levels and everything else. I think when you get to level 20, you unlock hard mode.
Hmm.
But again, I think that just means spongier enemies and that you need to level and stuff. So I haven't really engaged with any of that hard mode stuff
Mhm.
yet. It's been quite fun
Mhm.
to just play it regularly. As the game progresses, it gets more challenging. But again, I just think it's quite a casual game. I've heard people complain that it's too casual. I'm like, what do you mean? I feel this game feels good to play,
Mhm.
and that's enough to keep me interested. Because I obviously, if you think you're good at the game, you're probably more likely to stick with it and more likely to then spend money on it to get the characters. And I think that's
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
it's all
It's
for
all
the
part of the
gacha,
grand
baby.
plan, isn't it? Yeah.
You got to make sure the gacha don't get you. So
Yeah. Great
what else have you
visual
been playing?
style and great action. That's what I took away from it.
Also, cool soundtrack as well.
Hmm.
I do like it. It's good.
I didn't pay any attention to the story though. I skipped everything.
I gotta be honest with you, I'm kind of doing some of that as well. There are the main story beats where they animate things are fine. The ones where you're doing like side missions that are mainly
Dragged a bit.
in those worlds, I'm like, oh, I don't really care about
Yeah,
this. Like,
I
if
felt that could be shorter. I mean, short bits of story in between, rather than many screens as there seemed to be. That's what I played.
I think I think the game gets better at breaking that stuff up as you progress because there's
Right.
loads of side missions that don't have so much story stuff. There's just text and audio, but I end up
That's
skipping a
me
lot of that
all
stuff.
over. I'm not. I do like some story-based games, and I've enjoyed many story-based games in the past. But more often than not, I want something more pick up and play arcade style, where I'm playing, engaging with the game more than I am watching, cutscenes.
I mean, for me, I like this kind of stuff. I just don't think the writing's that engaging, and also I'm doing so much reading in my spare time now for manga and things, and I'm
Yeah,
just like, "Ah, I don't really
you
care
want to
about
play,
this.
you
It's
don't
not
want
good
to
enough."
read.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Cool. Well, I tell you what, Matt. If you want to just play a game, there's no genre better than a puzzle game, really, in terms of just pure gameplay. In fact, there's one I've been playing recently, which
Ho ho ho.
we briefly talked about for the podcast, and I've already sold it to you already, which surprised me somewhat. The game is called Pastel Muses, and you may be forgiven for not. Well, you can be forgiven for not hearing of it because I never heard of it until the other day when I was doing a search on one of my favourite places to purchase games, GenkiVideoGames.com, and I was searching for Buster Move because I've mentioned briefly, I'm pretty into playing Buster Move lately, and I've been picking up quite a lot of games in that series. So as well as Buster Move 3DX for the PS1, I also picked up Pastel Muses because it's similar but different. Um, it's Buster Move on a slope with a Angry Birds like catapult mechanic. You're catapulting what we call them bubbles at an angle to try and
Yeah,
try and get three of a kind, and then once you get three of a kind, they explode, and then all the other bubbles fall and cascade downwards into the on the slope. Um, So yeah, it's like Angry Birds meets Buster Move meets Worms, kind of in the way you need to what would be the word? Apply the right amount of force in order to catapult the ball the right distance. So you do that by holding down the button, and initially you get little trails so you can see where it's going to land. And you do get these also if you're struggling. Say you fail level, when you come back into that level, it will give you a little guide to show you where they're going to land. But more often than not, you don't get a visual representation. So you just sort of work out, and it's very satisfying actually working out how long you should press a button down in order to how far and the arc of the ball you're firing. I hope that makes sense, because it's much easier to see the game in action. So I'd recommend
Ha-
checking out a video of it.
Having seen the video of it, I would say it's like physics
Yeah,
based Buster Move, as you say. It's all
yeah,
about your angle and kind of the weight of the thing and where you want to hit it. And again, the fact that the well isn't just a vertical drop like in a Tetris or Buster Move. It
yeah.
You have to think about how these things are going to react and fall down into like this V shape that's
And it's
created by the scroll.
satisfying, like those videos you may watch on the internet where someone does something satisfying, like cut a cake or something like that. That's a bad example, but where
I know
things
what you
fall
mean,
into
though.
place when these balls or bubbles cascade downwards and create chain reactions, like they do in, say, Puyo. So it's really like it's got all those elements of a lot of the great puzzle games thrown together, because when you create a chain reaction in Puyo, it's very exciting, and you can create these chain reactions in Pastel Muses as well, which is developed by a Japanese studio called Soft Office, who I don't think have done very much. I just looked them up. It was actually a Sega website I found, and there was like 4 or so Saturn games. But this, I've been playing it on the PlayStation. It is also available on the Saturn in Japan, if you prefer to play it on the Saturn. Um, the PlayStation version seems great. I can't compare it because I've not played the Saturn one, but I imagine they're very similar. I don't think you could really mess it up, because it's
No.
quite a simple game. But also, I didn't mention this. There's also sort of levels like where you've finished a section, you get like a boss who'll stand in your way as you're trying to fire the balls down down the slope. He'll sort of stand there and create a bit of a barrier for you.
Oh, okay.
Also, everything
Interesting.
is shifting to the left, so you're timed as well. So there's a next to your character who's sitting on like a plunger. That's how he
Hmm.
fires off the balls. You've got a line next to him, and if the balls cross the line, then that's it. It's game over. But yeah, sometimes you
Yeah.
also have an enemy standing on the slope who creates an extra obstacle, and they're usually like boss battles at the end of each stage. There's a lot
Okay.
going on. I took a bit of a chance on this game. All I knew was it was like Buster Move or Puyo.
Yeah.
So I was like happily, pleasantly surprised how good it actually is, and how if you were to see it, you wouldn't necessarily think you would. If you saw the cover, it's very cute. They look like
Yeah.
otters. The
I
characters
was trying
do.
to figure out what they are. Like they're otters, they're hamsters. I don't know what they
Hmm.
are, but
It's
they're
also
very
got
cute cartoons.
a musical theme going on with how the levels look. There's a mu- musical notes in the background. Um,
Yeah. Whereas the cover almost kind of looks like a Sanrio thing to me. It's very bright, very like poppy colors. I
yeah, if you
think
just saw the cover, I don't know if you'd
yeah.
necessarily think to give it a go, but it's a
I
good
kind of
puzzle
like
game.
how the aesthetics of the game look, though. They do remind me a lot of Buster Move. It's kind of got this kind of almost very, very like shaded kind of pseudo 3D,
Pastel,
2D aesthetic to it. Pastels that look like
pastel
almost like
music.
clay as a result of how
Well,
many
the characters
pixels are in there.
are rendered characters,
Yeah, yeah.
so they're not pixel. That they're well, they are, but they're created in a sort of pre-rendered fashion. I try to think of an example: Mischief Makers, or Mortal
Oh
Kombat or
yeah,
something.
no, absolutely. But
Yeah.
I'm talking more about the environments and stuff around them. It's kind of
Oh yeah, the
the-
backgrounds and stuff. Very colourful. It's a bit like Rayman. If you imagine how
yeah.
Rayman looks, original Rayman. This is. Yeah.
It looks cool. I'm
Yeah, there
going
you
to
go.
definitely pick up a copy if I can.
Yeah, it's a cheap game. I think it cost me £8 on the PlayStation.
Wow.
So it's not.
Bargain.
I mean, I can't imagine it's particularly sought after. It's a bit of fun. It's not going to. It doesn't reinvent. Actually, does it? It does reinvent the wheel and it
It
reinvent
does
Buster Move
reinvent the
pretty
wheel.
well.
Yeah.
And that's what's so great about it. You know, it's a great concept. You think genius, come up with this. What a
Yeah.
great
All
spin on this formula.
all you needed to do was tilt the well, and there we go.
That's why it's so good. There you go.
Yeah.
But I tell you what's also a good Buster Move, and you can't go wrong with that series of games. I've been playing a lot of Buster Move Galaxy, well, Puzzle Bobble Galaxy, it's called. That's the
Yeah.
confusing thing when a game's been around for so long, and then they revert back to the original Japanese title, and then you don't know what to call it anymore. Yeah, but
Call it whatever you want.
call it what you want. Puzzle Bobble Galaxy on the DS. It's got lots of nice modes and features, and it's a great one. I've also been playing Puzzle Bobble Every Bubble on the Switch, which it's like limited in terms of like the backgrounds and the characters. Unfortunately, Bub and Bob are there, of course, and but there's been better Buster Move Puzzle Bobble games with lots of characters, like three. Puzzle Bobble
Right.
3, Bus Move 3, got a great presentation, lots of great characters and very unique backgrounds, like 2, but even more so. I think a lot of the characters are from different Taito games as well, so it's a bit of a crossover type thing.
Yeah. Again,
Um,
the Mario Crash of puzzle bobbles.
yeah. And 4 is good too. It's similar. It's more challenging, actually. Maybe the best balanced single player versus mode on a Puzzle Bobble game is Puzzle Bobble 3, I would say. It's sort of got best of all the different games, but it also 4 has Rumble, which is very
Okay.
interesting in a Puzzle Bobble game. And on the PlayStation version, and maybe the Dreamcast one, you can change the intensity of the Rumble. So if you want a lot of
Cute.
Rumble, you could just press, I think, select. That's one button, and then you can move between
Okay.
different intensities of Rumble, and actually does add an extra element to the gameplay. But if you want one portable, I keep coming back to Puzzle Bobble Galaxy.
I'll give it a look. I have been thinking about it. As we talked about last week in a non-related podcast before
Hmm.
we recorded, I kind of want to pull out my Game Boy / Game Boy Advance Puzzle Bobbles / Buster Moves and give them a go because it's been a while since I've played those, and I wonder if they're any good.
Hmm. Do you ever get into Puyo?
I love Puyo Puyo.
I'm
I
still
adore
trying
that
to get
series.
good at it. You know, I love playing it. I found on the various different console versions, the single player gets very challenging very quickly, and that always puts me
Yes, it
off
does.
because the computer plays the game incredibly well, much better than me, and I don't tend to last
Yeah.
very long. So that's a shame that those haven't got like Puzzle Bobble 3's versus mode perfect. If there was something like that for um, Puyo, all these names, I'd get that because I've played a lot of the Puyo games on the Game Boy, on the well, I don't know why I said Game Boy above all the others because there's so many and so many
I
different
was going to
formats.
say, like, have you
PlayStation,
not played
Dreamcast,
Mean Bean Machine and
Mega
Kirby's
Drive. Yeah,
whatever?
there's so many. I think because the last one I played was Puyo's Sun for the Game Boy Color. Strangely enough, don't
Weirdly,
know
the
why.
last one I played was Puyo Puyo Tetris, which is a game until we
Ah,
had this conversation I forgot exists and is absolutely amazing.
it's
So I might go
amazing,
play
and
a bit of
actually
that this
that was
afternoon.
the last one I played because every Thursday night prior to playing Fortnite, we have tended to play Puyo Tetris. But just it's great that game because you can play it how you want. You can play a mixture of the both Puyo and Tetris, or you can just play Puyo or Tetris, you know. And just
How
lately
am
it's
I?
been Puyo that we've been playing.
How am I just seeing that there's a Puyo Puyo Tetris 2? How has this escaped my knowledge?
Bargain game that is as well. I got the PS5 copy for next to nothing. It's
This
more of
is
the
a
same,
game.
in all honesty. I think if you've got one of them, it's you don't
I'm
necessarily
not
need
complaining.
to own another one, but still good if you
This
want
is
to
a
jump
game
on.
I imported from Japan to have a physical copy of for my Nintendo Switch back when I cared about such things.
Yeah, it's also in a way though it's a game you kind of don't want to have to think about putting the cartridge in because you kind of want it accessible all the time. I find that like with Puzzle Bobble, every bubble I've got the physical copy, came with a nice keyring
Yeah.
and very cheap for a physical game. You get them from Game for £15, and they never seem to go out of stock. Even though they tell me this, I've bought two because I bought one for my friend Gareth. Um, so they never seem to go out of stock of it, even though they keep saying it's selling like hotcakes.
Maybe that's why, because it's 15 quid and it's got a nice keychain.
Yeah, and it's a great game. You can play that online, by the way. If you ever want to play Puzzle Bobble online against other people, you can. I know we switch from game to game here, but that one you can play online. People are very good at it, but it's good to have the option to play real people online.
It is much more forgiving than a computer sometimes. I use sometimes as the optimal word there because
Sometimes,
sometimes
but
you
it
just get
depends how good they are.
steamrolled. Yeah,
Everyone's
exactly.
very good that I've played online so far. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all I've really played. I've got those lovely limited run versions of Trip World, which I will get
Oh
into
yeah.
soon. I can't wait to play DX. It's Trip World but in color, and what a amazing way to improve on an already almost perfect game. So I'm going to give that a go at some point. But other than that, I think my gaming calendar at the moment is pretty limited.
I didn't mention. I've completed or at least the main story of Pokemon Legends Arceus. That's something that
Oh
I had a phase of a few weeks ago because we haven't podcasted for a while. Just
no!
playing that, and I have to say, it reminded me how refreshing that game is in terms of the Pokemon franchise and changing things up a lot. And yeah, had me playing every day. I was having maybe a couple of hours on it, and played through that story. But I realize there's more to come. I haven't got all the Pokemon, of course, and there is a sort of after game. What do you call it?
Uh, an
New game
end
plus,
game.
end game. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because you haven't at
The
the point you do the main story, you haven't got Arceus yet. You fought
no.
Dalgia and Palkia, I think they're called.
Yeah, you have. So I'm exactly where you are. I caught every single Pokemon bar
Well, I haven't caught all the
Spirit.
Pokemon.
Spiritomb has like fragments that you need to collect in the world, and then for some reason I couldn't get a Cherubi. No matter how much I tried, it has a random chance of falling out of trees, and I never
Oh,
got one to
I
spawn.
the little cherry Pokemon.
Yes, I couldn't get one.
Really? Huh.
Yeah,
I think I've
weirdly.
seen a few of them.
Maybe now it's been patched. Maybe they're easier to get, but on launch I could not get one for love nor money. It sucked. It was really hard. But
It,
I once
yeah.
I get those, then I can go fight Arceus. But I hear that battle is very difficult, and
Yeah,
so I'm like, ugh.
one thing I don't necessarily like about how the gameplay changes up when you're having the sort of the boss battles with the Pokemon who have gone wild. They give it a
Hmm.
name in the game, like the Furious. They've gone rogue, and you have to calm them down by throwing bombs at them, and
Yes.
that changes the game into like a action game, and it's a bit jarring when you've gone from your turn-based combat in the main game, as you're wandering around collecting Pokemon and such, to something that does require some reaction time. And one thing I really like about Pokemon is it doesn't require you to react fast to stuff.
No.
It's a game you can sort of play one-handed, pretty much. It's like the controls are that simple, and the turn-based nature of it. But yeah, so that is a bit jarring. But I
I d-
manage through the
yeah.
frustration sometimes, but I managed to do those battles.
Yeah. Again, it's this thing that games need to have boss battles, right? And it just feels odd and kind of cumbersome. It doesn't really fit the aesthetics of
Yeah,
the game.
and it's funny you should mention that again because I'm thinking now, Puzzle Bobble Galaxy actually have boss battles, but they're quite good.
Okay, interesting.
So that's an instance of introducing a boss battle, but actually being quite. It's one of the actual more unique things about it. Um, but really, you're just playing Puzzle Bobble to beat the boss, kind of,
Yeah.
because the boss is on screen, on the top screen on the
Hmm.
DS. You have like little targets around it with the bubbles attached to, and you have to get rid of
Blow
all
them
of
up.
the bubbles
Yeah, yeah.
basically. Um, and then the boss is like an obstacle, kind of like in what's it called? Pastel Muses. But there you go.
Okay. I'm excited to play
Ugh.
Pokemon Legends ZA or
Yes, I
whatever,
look
however
forward to
you
that.
guys say that.
That's because I haven't even bothered with Scarlet and Violet
Me
because
neither.
I wasn't that compelled from what I'd seen to play them. I hadn't had. I thought Sword and Shield was fine, but far too easy. It didn't really, excite me too much,
No.
in all honesty. Whereas Legends was like, oh, this is new and this is fresh and I like it. I'd like to see more of that, and I look forward to the new one,
Yeah.
which could be on. Maybe it'll be on Nintendo Switch as it is, or will it be on Nintendo
It's
Switch?
announced for Switch, so let's see. But I mean, they can always pull a Legend of Zelda right and make that a launch title and just be like, "Hey, it's on both." So let's see.
Yeah, that could happen. I was thinking. I mean, we briefly touched on it before. Nintendo Switch 2. I've been thinking a little bit about what could be done with that, and it came out of my frustration regarding the Joy Cons recently, setting up
Okay.
we what's it called, Switch Sports.
Yeah.
Um, how if you've not been playing with the Joy Cons often, you have to set them all up before, don't you? You have to press L and R on them, but you have to make sure you're pressing the right way round. You want two
Yeah.
individual controllers, not one controller. So I've
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
found that not very intuitive and a bit frustrating, setting up the Joy Cons as two individual things, putting
Yeah.
on the slide thing on the side and everything. And it did make me think, is there much value to it? Perhaps, the idea was you could put it in your dock at home, pull off the Joy Cons, and you've got a controller, right?
Yeah.
Kind of great, but at the same time, I always prefer to use the classic controller, Pro controller, what it's
I
called.
never do. I have no other controller other than the Joy Cons. So for me, I
Yeah.
just use them in my hands. Like I said, I got
But do
over
you put the
using.
side bits on them as well?
No,
You
do I
don't bother with
hell?
that.
I
It does
literally just
make them
hold them
more
in my hands.
comfortable.
I
Yeah.
just hold them in my hands. I don't really care.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I just wondered if Nintendo was to do another one, maybe they don't necessarily need Joy Cons anymore. I do like because they introduce motion control into games, but maybe just have a separate motion controller that you release with a Wii Sports type, Switch Sports type game.
Yeah,
Because
that could
that's
be fun.
where it's got the most value, I think. Otherwise, I think just think controllers are better. So sell the system an all-in-one, but maybe with an extra controller. So when it's docked, you can just use that. I don't know. I've just been thinking about it lately.
That's fair. I wouldn't mind. I'm curious to see how this other Switch is because like obviously we've seen
We don't know much or anything yet.
things flying around in terms of like patents and stuff, and people think they're going to go back to a DS style thing with a folding screen and like two screens and everything else, and that could be cool. I can imagine like if it was like a Samsung. I've been seeing lots of ads for Samsung phones recently that remind me
Mm,
of Game Boy Advance SPs where the
right.
screen folds in half, and I'm like, if they could do that with a games console, I'd be into that. If they had like the Switch style controller docks on either side of the screens, you could have it like a little gaming handheld with a flip screen or a full screen. I'd be
Mm,
into that, but I don't know
no,
how that would
I
work.
am too bothered about that. Sounds expensive to me. The
Maybe.
technology
Who
perhaps
knows?
isn't quite foldable screens and such. Uh, I just want something that doesn't have Joy-Con drift.
Yeah,
If the fact that the Joy Cons themselves inherently have this problem because of their form factor and what they are, what they offer, because you
yeah,
don't get that with a Pro controller or whatever they're called. They only seem to happen with the Joy Cons. So I really want to avoid that ever happening again because I've still got my original Joy Cons. Occasionally they do drift, and it annoys
yeah.
me. You don't do it
Hmm.
all the time, but it's so much you kind of think, well, I'm not going to bother maybe using the Joy Cons or having it in handheld mode right now because it is annoying. It usually passes. It usually I turn the console on, and then there's a little bit of it, and then it goes away. But
Yeah.
I gather this can get worse to the point where perhaps the controller becomes unusable and you have to get a new one or get it
It
repaired if you can. I
it
don't know.
can. I mean, this kind of Did you see on a slightly related topic, did you see the new gachas that they put out in the official
Yep.
Nintendo shops in Japan?
Yeah,
I
where
know
you can.
people are clamoring to get them because you can use the buttons to replace buttons on actual controllers.
These are like the control stick or the face buttons on a little keychain for the various
They
Nintendo
are, yeah.
systems.
And oh my gosh, Tom, I want a C
They're
stick for the
tactile.
GameCube so bad because I could just fiddle with the C stick
Yeah,
wherever I
yeah.
am.
They're like a fidget toy type thing.
They
They're cool.
are. They look
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I
Only
also love
available in Japan. Yeah,
and have immediately sold out, and
right.
hopefully there will be more of them in the coming
They're
weeks
like
and that they
amiibos.
get
They've
more
got so
available.
popular. Yeah.
Well, I think it's just people realizing that they're actual buttons and stuff that they've just immediately sold out by.
And then they can use them to replace their broken N64 analog
Yeah,
stick.
can you imagine having a fidget thing that is just the super, not the Super Famicom, the Japanese Super Nintendo controllers that have the little divots for your fingers? Oh,
Oh, yeah.
it's been a while since we talked about it in this podcast. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it. While I hate the design of the console, American Super Nintendo pad is the best Super Nintendo pad. I love those little like
The
Parma Violet
divots.
buttons that divot,
Yes,
and I love the colors.
I love that as well. Yeah, but I prefer the console design and the colors of the Super Nintendo or Super Famicom.
Yeah,
But I love the divots. Yeah, I'm with you on the divots totally.
I love a good divot.
Me too. Me too.
Okay, right. On that note, let's wrap this
I love a
podcast
good
up.
divot.
I
Yeah,
love a good divot.
and a
Yeah,
good diversion. There's been plenty of them on this episode.
there it has. I was going to say, you can tell we haven't done this for a while because there's a lot to talk
Oh,
about,
a
and we're
lot to
just
talk
spinning off
about.
in different directions.
I hope you've liked it. I hope it hasn't been too much, and I hope you've got something from it. Do let us know.
Please do. You can do so in a variety of places, such as on X at TMA Cast, at Game Boyle for me, at Tom Parry 11 for him. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom Attack. We're also available in iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. So go do that. I realized recently Stitcher isn't a thing anymore, so I should
I was going
stop
to
saying
say
that.
you didn't
Yeah.
say Stitcher.
I didn't, because for very good reason, because it doesn't exist, and I've been saying it
No.
longer than it has. Yeah, if you have enjoyed Tom and I talking about video games, maybe you'll enjoy us talking about manga. You can do that at Manga Attack Pod, which is available
Where
everywhere
I
as
am an
well.
occasional guest.
You are the rotating third chair. You've been on there 3 times, which is currently the record. Thank you so much for being on and talking to me about manga, Mr. Parry. It is massively appreciated. Okay, hopefully you enjoyed listening to that and listening to this. As Tom says, let us know if you have. Let us know if you were convinced to go out and buy Pastel Muses, or if you want to play Mario Kart against Tom, I guess, because he's full into it. You can do that on those places. And yeah, we'll be back again in a couple of weeks, I guess, with an episode of Tom At Attack. Until then,
Ooh.
though, be sure, as always, to game on. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Game on.